Hi everybody, this is Danny Class. One of the challenges for a beginner student of the guitar is stretching the fingers on the left hand, getting comfortable with pressing down across a big number of frets. And usually the first way that a lot of students learn how to do that is with the power chord. And so today we're going to learn how to kind of think about the power chord as a way to stretch your left hand, the first and third fingers. And then also we'll look at ways you can strengthen your pinky, and in so doing kind of get used to making your hand bigger on the guitar and stretching out your hand to get some interesting intervals. Okay, so let's start with the power chord, which is simply the first and fifth notes of a major scale played together. It's sometimes called a 5 chord. So here, I'm on the 6th string at the 8th fret and the 5th string at the 10th fret, first and third fingers respectively. This is a C5 chord, or call it a C power chord. Okay, and if I move that to the next two strings, same positioning, that's a F power chord. And if I slide that up a whole step, keeping the fingers the same, that is a G power chord, or G5 chord. Okay, so now, I'm playing it kind of in a mellow way, but you've heard this rock and metal and blues, and it's just a kind of common way of playing the guitar. But the challenge for new guitarists is the spacing between the first and third fingers, because it's common for this finger, if you're starting out, to kind of want to get closer in. The stretch doesn't feel natural. And so what I would suggest you do is a few things. The first is, when you start out, look at your index finger, right? Actually concentrate on it, and that will kind of anchor, in a mental way, your hand to where it should be. Okay, and the challenge comes when you move to the next strings, but also when you slide it up. And so when you do any movement with this constant fingering positioning, always think to yourself, the space between my first and third finger, the ones pressing down, must remain the same. Not an iota, not a millimeter, not a half millimeter of shift should happen. It's just like a constant space. That might take some practice, because your fingers are going to want to move a little bit, but resist that, resist that movement. Always keep them the same space. And a good way to accomplish that is, remember, your thumb should always be going along with your hand, ideally, kind of right behind the space between your first and second finger. Okay, so I think that's useful because that stretch of the first and third finger is starting to open up your hand. But what about your pinky? I am a big believer in using your pinky. A lot of guitarists maybe just sort of, not that they're not a believer, but they just, get by without it and are able to do wonderful things. But I've always thought that, well, you've got the pinky, so why not use it? Okay, but the problem in the beginning phase and beyond too, but especially in the beginning phase, is it's weak, compared to your other fingers. It's just, you don't use as much, it just probably doesn't have the strength. But that does not mean that you can't get the strength for it. Okay, so I've got a few exercises, two really in mind, on ways you can strengthen your pinky, and in so doing, kind of open up the muscles on these hands down the road to get some really cool, interesting fingerings and intervals. Okay, so what I would first suggest is take a scale that you know, and we'll do the A minor pentatonic scale, since it's so common that people know it. And instead of playing it with proper fingering, that everyone in the beginning phase kind of knows, what if we kind of broke that rule and just played it only with the pinky? When it's going to feel strange, right? The whole thing is going to be with the pinky. It'll be slower. that's ascending, and let's do it descending also. Oh, I cheated already, right? Okay, so do that a bunch of times and then go back to the original fingering that you know, and it might, I mean, for me, it already feels different. It feels more open on my left hand. It just kind of already stretched it out a little bit. Okay, let's do another one. Let's do a little more of a little more complicated scale. It just has more notes. The C major scale, with first the regular fingering that I've taught before another lesson. You probably know it. Oh. That was not a good one. Let's do it again. Okay. As we descend back to the root note. Okay, now just with the pinky, and I'm gonna go slow because this is, not easy for me either, actually. That's ascending, and let's do it descending. Take your thumb with you. Okay, right, and so then do that a bunch of times, and then go back to the original fingering, and you might feel that your hand is opening up. And it feels more comfortable to make these stretches. So, stretching is interesting because I can remember when I started, I thought, well, I'll never be able to stretch like the people I see. I started out taking classical guitar lessons, and I'd see people like, Christopher Parkening and other great Segovia, and they could do just these amazing things on a big nylon string guitar with a chunky neck. I thought, my hands aren't that big. I can't do that. But maybe I'll get like 4 stretches, and just through practice and through exercises and just kind of keeping at it, I was able to kind of really get some stretches of 5 and 6 strings, frets. And I say that just because my hand is not that big, and it's just kind of average size, and I think you'll be able to kind of do likewise. Don't worry about how big your hand is and how big the neck is, and certainly find a guitar that's comfortable for you. But if you feel like, well, my hands are small, so what? I mean, you can see guitarists with small hands doing amazing things, amazing stretches. And as long as you practice, and I would suggest these techniques to get your pinky involved. One other thing, if you really want to take this another kind of at another level, what if we barred with our pinky, right? Just 2 strings, right? It's possible, and it's maybe not as hard. It's not as hard as you think. I think the key here, as I get closer in, is, as I explained in another lesson, when you bar, you want to kind of really kind of snap your finger down, that knuckle down, to kind of really pop it in, and that'll kind of shoot this knuckle part up, and you get this sort of concave element to your finger that can help a lot with bars of 3 strings, 2 strings. With 6 strings, there's a different, I think there's a different technique where you kind of stiffen your finger and roll it, which I explained in a previous lesson. So then if that's true, then why don't we take our pinky? I mean, our pinky can bend like that, right? We can still shoot it in. And I will go, I don't know, how about I'll go on the 1st and 2nd strings at the 3rd fret. Okay, so I'm barring, just with the pinky. I mean, I'm looking at it, and it turns, it's turning a different color, which should freak me out, but it doesn't hurt, It doesn't. It's funny. When I first started this, it would hurt like hell and just be terrible. But it doesn't anymore, even though it looks like it should. And so it's possible to do this, right? So let's just move it up. I don't know, how about a whole step the whole way up? Let's see what happens. It's getting harder. Take your thumb with you, and then backwards. With pain, it's interesting. I was taught, and I think it's a good way of kind of thinking about the physicality of the instrument. If it hurts a little, that's okay. as long as, after you're done playing, the pain is not there anymore and you're able to live your life. It really shows that your muscles are getting stronger. On the other hand, if it hurts when you're playing and it hurts hours afterwards, then maybe you should stop and do another technique. That's not supposed to happen. But the pain in the beginning is normal. It's just kind of the nature of the instrument. Try maybe 3 strings. And then so once you get that strength down on your pinky, then when you go back to your regular playing and you're soloing or something, throw it in, see what happens with some slides and such. And it's interesting, once you do, you're able to kind of remember you still have your index finger and your middle finger, and so you've kind of shifted your hand just by using your pinky that way. So give it a shot, see what happens. I hope you found the lesson useful. And if you have any other suggestions or ideas on how to improve this lesson or things that you think that I should add, please put them in the comment section. And I will see you next time. Stay well. Goodbye.